to have everything finished, completed, done by tomorrow, October the 9th. You're one day behind the class before this, and they finished up today. So that should mean that no later than Tuesday, we should wrap it up. And that'll give you a day or two more to work it out. Well, let's go ahead and get going. Let's talk about surveys. Now, have we talked about this yet? Okay, good. Surveys, we used to kind of say that was a paper interview. But now it can be done online, it can be done over the telephone or cell phone, it can be done by mail. I mean, there's any number of ways a survey can be done. I mean, they can do a survey with you coming out of a grocery store and asking you if you would answer a couple of questions about such and such, which do you prefer, Coke or Dr. Pepper? And then ask you more questions like that. Surveys, researchers will ask you a series of questions about a topic. Now, surveys are given to a representative sample that comes from a population. The population is the group that you're going to study. The representative sample are the people you're going to study, and we're going to talk about, first of all, what a random sample is. Now, important. Don't start. A random sample is where everybody in the population has an equal chance of being chosen to participate in the study. It is not where somebody just comes in willy-nilly and said, okay, I'm gonna blindfold myself and choose people. That is not a random sample. Everybody in the population has to have an equal chance of being chosen to participate. Now let's say that I'm going to write a paper on the average student of Pulaski Tech. I want to get a representative sample, and to do that I'm going to use a random sample. So I put a big desk like this in front of the door over here, the main door that faces the interstate. And I'm going to sit there from 7 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday. I'm going to snag people as they come in until I get the number that I need. Is that a random sample?
Not really.
Why?
Because you probably have to pick people from like a certain class or a certain subject in order for them to all have an equal opportunity. Because some people's major may not be the same.
Doesn't matter if they're coming in that door. Everybody's coming in that. I mean, people are coming in that door, and then they all have different majors and stuff. So would that be a good way to get a random sample? You're looking at me
I don't know.
with suspicious eyes. What have you to say?
I say no because you need to try to get.
What?
I say no because you need to catch everybody at different. That's like the only door.
Good thinking. Good job. That's not the only door people come from or come in. And so not everybody would have an equal chance. And so, therefore, I'd have to find every door that could possibly be an entrance and put a table there. All right? So I do that and find people to help me snag people as they come in. 7 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. Is that a random sample? I see the head shaking over there. Hmm? I don't think that she's thinking that. Okay. You say no?
I say yes.
You say yes?
Is that from open to close?
If you catch everybody at all the entrance,
Right.
Is that from open to close?
Open to close?
Yeah, is
Yeah,
that-
well, from 7 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night.
Then I would say yes. Well, no, because what about online students? Think about that.
Good job.
oh, okay.
Good job. That would eliminate the online students. So let's say that somehow I incorporate those. Now, is that a random sample?
Yes. Well, I mean, send it through the whole school.
Do what?
But can you calculate the online sample accurately?
Well, let's just say I figure out a way to get the onlines in, okay?
Like, go to school, you know how the school sends everybody a newsletter? Like this.
Okay. That's interesting. Well, let's just say I figure out a way to get the online. So I got the online, and I'm here from 7 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. Every entrance. Is that going to be a random sample?
Yeah.
You thinking about future students?
Hmm? Well, future students don't count on that survey. You're looking like
If you
you're.
take it to online at that point, can it be extended past 6 o'clock? Because not everyone might be on from 7 to 6.
Did you say something here about not?
Like not being able to access from 7 to 6. People might have jobs where they're just gone all day from 7 to 6. So maybe time might not work out.
Well, if they have jobs and they've got classes scheduled between 7 and 6, then that should catch them. What about night students? I'd have to be here until 9 o'clock at night.
That's what I was trying to figure out, what was open and what was closed. 'Cause
Okay, so I'm gonna be here from 7 until 9. I've taken care of the online students. I've got every entrance covered. Now do I have a random sample? Y'all know how many campuses we have?
two,
About 5.
mine.
What about people on that campus? They may not come over here. So I would have to basically figure out how to cover every entrance of every building of every campus from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock at night. That got it?
Send an email.
Do what?
I'm saying send an email to like every student that's in the system.
You are very close. Even if I did everything I'm saying right now, who's to say somebody's not sick those days? Somebody have an accident, somebody be called into work. It cannot be a true random sample any way that we've discussed. The only way that it could be a true random sample would be if I asked the computer department to roll all the student numbers and for the computer to kick out about 1,000 names. At that point, it would be random because everybody would have an equal chance of being chosen, and it would be the computer that's spitting them out. So that would truly be a random sample. Y'all see the difference? You've got to cover every possible thing that could be associated with that population. Okay. surveys are conducted in person, online, through the mail, on the telephone, electronically, all kinds of ways. The problem with surveys is the validity of the data. You have to be very, very careful in giving a survey and in taking the results of the survey, the information as gospel until you find out more about it. We're being plagued right now with polls. This poll, that poll, who won the debate, all this kind of stuff. I do not listen to one of those polls. I don't know who they interviewed. I don't know when they interviewed them. I don't know who the population was that they interviewed. I don't know how old the population was that they interviewed. I don't know if it was an equal representation of political opinions, like Democrat, Republican, or Independent. I don't know if it was all from one part of the country. All of those things can affect the way a poll reports information. If I go up into the Northeast and do a survey on whether or not guns should be outlawed, Northeast, I'd probably get like an 80% saying, yeah, absolutely. You go down to Texas,
Exact opposite.
and it's gonna be the exact opposite. So demographics can affect a poll. Everything can affect a poll. The way you word the questions, the population you give it to, the time that you give it, all of those things. And so, to be perfectly honest, I try my best not to put any value into polls, especially right now. And it's real hard because every time you turn around, somebody's giving you one. I mean, you're hearing the results. Now, tell you the truth, I try my best not to listen to the news. And in fact, I get mad because my husband listens, and I tend to overhear some things every once in a while, and just don't contaminate me. I don't want to hear that stuff, you know. The problem with surveys is the validity of the data, depending on how the questions are phrased and whether the wording is clear. Surveys are time efficient, cost efficient. You can use large numbers, and you can study covert behaviors. There's a test called the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, and it's a multiple choice test, or actually it's a true-false test, but they actually have one part of it that determines whether or not you're being honest. They can determine that in that test. The validity depends on who is included in the survey and how honest they are. You know, if you go up to a booth and it's got Pepsi written all over it, and they said, we'd like you to take a taste test. Which do you prefer, a Pepsi or Dr. Pepper? A lot of people are embarrassed to say, well, I really prefer Dr. Pepper. Or they think that the people want them to answer in a certain way, and so they'll answer that way just to please the researcher. It goes to say, I mean, you don't have to say it, that that's going to be an invalid poll or invalid survey. You have to have three things on the wording of surveys. It has to be clear, it has to be concise, and it has to be unbiased. I want to tell you about a call I got one night. The subject doesn't matter. I want you to tell me what you think of the wording of this survey. I received the call and they said, we have a one-question survey that we would like you to participate in. I said, only one question? That's correct. I said, okay, give it to me. Do you consider yourself pro-choice or anti-woman?
That's messed up.
Do you consider yourself pro-choice or anti-woman? What do y'all think?
You don't have a choice.
No.
That's not a
First of
choice.
all, there is no choice on that, because it's going to produce whatever they want in the poll. So it's biased. It's extremely biased. If you use a word on one part, you have to use the same word on the other. So you would have to say pro-choice or pro-life, anti-choice or anti-life. Now, if you have a pro and an anti, the majority of people are going to move toward the pro because they don't want to be known as anti-something. That's a negative. And so, no, I don't want to be considered anti, and especially anti-woman. Anything else? Would somebody please define to me what anti-woman is?
Yeah, it's not very clear.
Huh. My idea of anti-woman might be very different than your idea, and might be different than your idea. I mean, that's a very ambiguous term. And who knows what they meant? And so that is not a clear question. I will say it was concise. They got 1 out of 3. You have to be very careful about the population that you survey. It has to be an appropriate population, and it has to be unbiased. Now, let's say that I am going to do a paper and I'm wanting to identify every symptom that a woman has, every possible symptom that accompanies PMS. Okay? Now, I'm going to get I'm going to do my research and find out every possible symptom so the participants can just check it off. And I'll even cover it and put other down there just in case if there's something I missed. The wording is perfect. The choices are lined up. Everything is concise. Everything is unbiased. Everything is clear. It is a perfect survey. I have a printer printed up. It looks beautiful. It's very professional looking. The question: what symptoms have you experienced during PMS? It's a very clear, concise, unbiased question. Okay? So I'm going to try and identify those symptoms. I go to the printer, I picked up my box, I go over to Catholic High School, and I start distributing them to students. And what do y'all think about that?
It doesn't have to go to a certain age range,
No.
or gender, maybe.
Wait a minute, what? You look like you're smiling. No. Now, I've taken it over to Catholic High School for them to tell me what PMS symptoms they've experienced. Anybody from around here? Catholic High School is all boys.
Oh, I didn't know that. But that's what I was saying about the gender thing.
Yeah, that's why I thought you were on it. Yeah, that would not be an appropriate population to survey on what symptoms have you experienced of PMS. Now, if I took it over to Mount St. Mary's, an all-girls school, that would be different. Or if I put together a survey and say, what symptoms have you noticed? Your girlfriend, your mom, your aunt, your sister, all these women in your life, what symptoms have you observed accompanying PMS? But they can't answer what experiences have they had. And so you have to be very careful. It is an appropriate population. It has to be unbiased. Now, if I went to the Democrat National Convention and I had a survey, please tell me how you would evaluate the presidency of Bill Clinton. Excellent, good, fair, poor, and sucked. I imagine I would have 80+% people that would say excellent or good at the DNC. If I went to the RNC, Republican National Convention, I imagine I'd have 80+% that said poor to suck. Either one of those would be invalid because they're biased. And you couldn't do both of them and then mix them. That doesn't work either. You'd have to survey a group that would have a good blend of Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. So, the wording has to be clear, unbiased, and concise. Population has to be appropriate and unbiased. The disadvantages, you have to make sure the population, the sample population is appropriate. People are not always honest. Now, when we're talking about surveys, size matters. You don't want it too small because then it's not representative. You don't want it too large because then it's not manageable. If I wanted to poll every person in the United States on their opinion on gun control, well, first of all, it'd be kind of hard to poll babies and newborns, but, you know, we'll even say that they might be able to just go goo, 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 and point, you know, but if I had 330 million pieces of paper coming in to have to tabulate, that's going to be pretty hard to crunch. Now the mathematicians, they tell us 1,000 is the magic number. They say if you get 1,000 respondents, that is a perfect number to represent large numbers, such as population. We've already talked about random sample, so let's talk about the experiment. This is going to be one of the ones that's going to be a little touchy. And I'm going to try my best to make it as easy to understand as possible, but we've got definitions here that are about as clear as the Mississippi River. Okay? Experiment is a deliberate manipulation of a variable to see if corresponding changes in behavior result. Therefore, it will determine whether there is a cause and effect relationship. Now, that last sentence is major. The experiment is the only research method that will tell us cause and effect. That's one of those important things that I would keep in mind throughout the rest of the semester. Very important. Cause and effect experiments. An operational definition, the definition of a variable of interest that allows it to be directly measured. Experiments can sometimes lead to correlations, which is a relationship, but the true value of an experiment is it will show us cause and effect. I'm going to hammer on that, folks. This is important. Experiments will tell us cause and effect. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard the term circular definition. I'm going to illustrate one. An independent variable is a variable manipulated by the research to determine its effect on the dependent variable, and the dependent variable is the factor that is affected by the independent variable. That's about as clear as mud. It's no wonder students have a hard time embracing this concept. And independent variables, dependent variables, I'm gonna tell you right now, they're on the final. They are on the final. You're gonna have to be able to identify an independent variable and a dependent variable. Now, let me see if, we can say that the independent variable, that's the one that's manipulated to see if it causes a behavioral change. Let me see if I can break it down for you a little bit better. You have two groups. You have something you want to see if it's going to change a change in something. A change in the behavior, a change in the metabolism, but you're going to be testing to see if this thing causes a change in something. You have two groups. You're going to give this to one group, which is called the experimental group, and you don't give anything to the control group. The thing that you give the experimental group is your independent variable. So, for a lack of a better way of putting it, that is the item you're going to be testing. Okay? So, I think that if you drink 3 Dr. Peppers a day, that you'll have a reduction in migraine headaches. Now, I've got to test this. I find 50 people who have 3 migraines a week. I break them up, 2 groups of 25. This group every person has at least 3 migraines a week. Every person in this group has at least 3 migraines a week. Now, I give my experimental group Dr. Peppers. And I say, I want you to drink at least 3 Dr. Peppers a day. We do this for a month. Now, I'm going to look at the number of headaches the control group has. We're looking to see if it's at least 3 a week. And I'm looking to see if there's a change in the number of headaches in my experimental group. Did they go up? Did they go down? Did they stay the same? And so I'm going to be looking at the number of headaches in both groups, and I'm going to be looking to see if there's a change. I look at what happened in the experimental group, and the outcome, the result, is my dependent variable. Did this Dr. Pepper make them have more or less headaches? That would be the dependent variable, the result. I'm looking to see, was there a change? Okay? When you put it down like that, it's not that hard to grasp. But this is something that really, really tends to trip up students. Now, I've invented a smart machine. When you turn on this smart machine and you leave it in a room, everybody who's exposed to the invisible microwaves or whatever, radio waves that go out, will learn better, comprehend it longer, understand it clearer, and retain it. Pretty good invention. I'm really impressed with myself. I take it to Walmart, Home Shopping Network, and Best Buy. I said, I'm going to make you all millions of dollars. And they said, okay. I said, I've got a smart machine. You put that smart machine in a room and everybody's going to learn things quicker. It's going to stay longer. They're going to understand it clearer. I mean, this is the best invention in years. That's fantastic. This is incredible. Where's your data that it works? Well, I'm just telling you it works. No, we gotta have some paperwork that shows us the tests and the results. So, okay. I have 50 students, well, we'll say 30 students in a class. I come in one day and I say, you know, I'm not gonna be able to lecture today, so I've recorded my lecture. And because I'm going to be giving a test after the lecture, I want everybody to space out with one chair between y'all, so therefore, I'm gonna take half of y'all in one room and keep half in here. You will have the exact same lecture. I have to leave. They'll run the lecture for you on the screen here. Afterwards, you'll have somebody come in. They will read the exact directions for the test to both groups. You're watching the exact same lecture. You will be given the exact same test with the exact same test conditions. When I start out and I say, okay, I want, you know, all 15 of y'all on this side to go into the other room, and we'll get you all set up. When I lay this down, trying to do it as cool as possible, I turn it on and get them settled, get you all settled, get the movies running for both, and then take off. Everything is exactly the same for every student. Now, in that scenario, what is the independent variable?
Your smart machine.
Smart machine. What is it that I gave the experimental group? I'm testing the smart machine on this experimental group. This is something that the control group does not have. What would be the dependent variable?
Information that you receive after you've given them the smart machine. Or the results, I guess you say.
You pretty well got it. You're going to be looking at the test scores, and you're going to see, is there a difference in these test scores and these? Was there a change in this group as opposed to this group? See, if you break it down and just say, okay, what is it that is being tested on this experimental group, and then what were the results? You've got it made. That would be the independent variable and the dependent variable. Questions? Everybody think they got it? You're a lot better than me, because it took me years to be able to figure this out. Well, I take my information to Walmart, Best Buy, and Home Shopping Network. And I said, I've tested it on a class now, it works. Look at my test. And they said, that's fantastic. How many times did you replicate this? And I said, what do you mean replicate? Well, you can't just depend on one test. You're going to have to give the same test over and over and over again to different groups to see if you get the same results. That's replication. Then we've got what's called a placebo. A placebo is a chemical, a substance, or a device that has no active ingredients, and yet it produces an effect because the person believes it's supposed to produce that effect. It produces an effect because the person believes it should be producing that effect. Now, there's an old show, Andy Mayberry, Andy Griffith Show, and the very, very first episode, the city of Mayberry gets a brand new pharmacist. Miss Ellie comes to help out her uncle. He runs the pharmacy. She just graduated from pharmacy school, and so she's come in to help him, and he takes a much-needed vacation. The first day that she opens the pharmacy up, here comes Miss Emma. I'd like my pills, please. And she said, I'll be happy to give you your pills. May I have your prescription? Ain't got no prescription, I just want my pills. And she goes, well, I don't know what pills to give you. You need to just go ahead and ask your doctor to give me a call or to give me a prescription. Your uncle never asked for a prescription, he just gave me my pills. And she goes, well, I'm not allowed to do that, you know, and so you need to go to your doctor. I never heard of such a thing. She leaves. She sneaks back, tries to steal her pills, which didn't work. She starts getting sick. Every day, she gets a little sicker, a little more ill. The people of Mayberry are starting to turn on Miss Ellie. You're killing her. How can you be so cruel? You're a horrible person. Miss Emma is on her deathbed. Miss Ellie comes and gives her a pill. Within 15 minutes, Miss Emma is up, eating, chowing down on the food that everybody in the town's been bringing her. Just back to her old self, and Andy says, that is truly a miracle drug. And she goes, that's not a miracle drug. I got in touch with my uncle, and he said that the doctor's been giving her placebo for the last 10 years. She goes, that's a sugar pill. Something that she was taking that she thought that it produces an effect when it didn't. Now, here's a real life story. Honest to goodness, real life story. When I was in undergraduate school, when I was going to Euler, I worked my way through college on an ambulance as an EMT instructor. I was in paramedic school, but at that time, the law did not permit paramedics to do nearly what they're doing right now. I was checking out our unit. We got a call, there was a lady having a heart attack. I buttoned up the unit, we boogied over there, and sure enough, this lady was having a heart attack. Put her on the stretcher, put her in the unit, and you know, I did everything I was supposed to do, and then I said, now I'm going to put a little hose, a little tube, that goes around your neck, and it's going to put some oxygen in your nose. I said, that's going to make you feel so much better. It's going to ease your breathing. It'll help ease the pain a little bit. You'll relax a lot. And she said, well, thank you, darling. So, got her all hooked up, took the end of the tube, put it into the oxygen tank, turned it on, and it went psst. It was empty. And she saw that, and her eyes started getting bigger. I said, no, don't worry. I said, I got another tank over here that's 3 times as big as this one. Turned it on, and it did not even have enough oxygen to hiss. It was completely empty. Now, I knew if she knew that, she would really start freaking out, and probably she'd code on me. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Now, this one does not have a gauge like this one, and so It's gonna be kind of like a fine tuning. And so when you start feeling a little bit of oxygen coming through here, you tell me, because that'll be the perfect amount. I don't want too much, I don't want too little, I want just right. You feel it yet? No? Well, then we have to open it some more. You feel it yet? Mm-mm. Oh, need some more. Feel it yet? She goes, I think so. No, you gotta know. You feel it yet? Yes, yes, I am starting to feel it. I said, that's perfect. You don't want any more, you don't want any less, that's the perfect amount. Came over and talked with her and such, and she, oh yeah, I'm starting to feel better, starting to relax, you know, ease breathing. Got her to the emergency room, took her into an exam room, helped her to get comfortable in a bed. I'm coming out, and as I'm coming out, the nurse is going in. I said, we ran out of oxygen en route, and I said, you probably need some. I'll take care of it. Last thing I heard, no, 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 that's too much oxygen. That other lady knew what she was doing. No active ingredients. No oxygen. But she was receiving an effect because she expected to. And so, because she expected to, she got the placebo effect. The strengths of an experiment, again, it establishes cause and effect relationships. Pitfalls, sometimes something that you haven't counted on creeps into your experiment and it screws everything up. That would prevent a valid conclusion. Okay, when we're talking correlations, correlation is a relationship. Okay? That's what we're looking for with a correlation. If there is relationship between two things, not cause and effect. Correlations never determine cause and effect. We use a scatter plot on correlations. And we're going to be looking, is there a perfect correlation, a less than perfect correlation, no correlation, or a negative correlation? Now, a perfect correlation, that's where two variables will go the same direction, like that. The negative, the more you have one, the other one's going to go in the opposite direction. I'll tell you about, you'll understand in a second. And correlation, no correlation means that neither one of them have a relationship. So, correlations can test predictions, they can help evaluate theories, they can even suggest new hypotheses, but they cannot confirm a cause and effect. It's only a relationship. Now, here's what correlations look like on a scatter plot. When you have from low left to high right, that's going to be a positive correlation. The closer those dots are together, the more perfect the correlation it is. So this one is a stronger correlation than that one over there. But that one over there is still a positive one because it is still going from low left to high right. Now, if you go from high left to low right, that's a negative correlation. And if it looks like you just took a salt and pepper shaker and shook it all over your scatter plot, that's zero correlation. Now, what would a positive correlation look like? Study and for good grades. Okay? You look and see if people who study have good grades. So that would indicate a correlation that study and good grades go together. Now, a negative correlation. The more you drink, the worse your driving skills become. So you're seeing this type, that the correlation is actually getting away from each other. The more you do this, the more this drops. Okay? So, that would be a negative correlation. Zero correlation, eating Cheerios and good grades. There's no correlation to that at all. All right. You should have had measures of central tendency in your math classes. I'm not going to go over much at all. The mean is where you take all the numbers, add them up. You divide by the number of the numbers. So you've got 7 here, and the total of these numbers are 27. So when you divide 4 into 27, 7 into 27, you get 3.8. That is the average. And the mean is the average, okay? Now, the mode is the most frequently occurring number. So here you look at this group here and you say, I see a 2, and there's another 2, I don't see any other. So 2 would be the mode, the most frequently occurring number. Over here, and this is supposed to be a straight line, I don't know what happened. Well, we got a 2, an 8, a 4, a 7, a 2, 1, 3, and a 7. So now I've got 2 2s and 2 7s. That is a bimodal. So both the 2 and the 7 would be the mode. Now, the one that's probably the little bit harder for the students to get, or they make a very, I don't want to say careless mistake, but it's very important. When you're looking for the median, you're looking for the middle number. If you leave the numbers in the column as is, you're going to miss it. Here, you've got 7 as a middle number. Remember that. When you are looking for the median, you actually have to rearrange the number in numerical order. So instead of this group, you have 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8. So instead of 7, the median is 3. Halfway. Okay? Now here, you have an uneven amount of numbers. So what you do is, again, you rearrange the numbers into a column, numerical order or sequential order, and you take the 2 middle numbers, add them together, and divide by 2. So in this one, 7 is the middle number. Because I've added 3 and 4, I'm going to divide by 2, so actually 3.5 is going to be the median. Okay? Everybody got it? Okay. A theory is an explanation for a phenomenon based on careful and precise observations. It is an explanation that simplifies. It is an explanation that explains something. Okay? A hypothesis is a prediction about future behaviors that is derived from observation and theories. It is a testable prediction. It's a testable prediction. So therefore, you start out with a theory. From a theory comes a hypothesis. You're going to want to test your hypothesis, so you have to get data or observations Then you're going to evaluate and assess what you got with your observations and your research. Then you're going to make a conclusion. Were you right? Were you wrong? Were you almost right or almost wrong? So maybe I can tweak that a little bit and check about this or that. And then go from there. So theory, hypothesis, research, observations, evaluation, assessment, conclusion, refine, chuck it, keep it, or regenerate. Now, hindsight bias. Basically what this is after you know the conclusion of something, you say, well, I knew that all along. I knew this is what was going to happen. I knew this is the way it was going to be. And so you say, after learning the outcome, that you knew the outcome before the outcome happened. I can tell you right now, I knew last weekend that the Razorbacks were going to lose. You know, this is my favorite, illusory correlation. The illusory correlation is a perceived relationship where none exists. Superstitions are made of this. A perceived relationship where none exists. Now, my best example of this, true story. Had a lady come in, we had been talking for some time, and she, I don't know why she brought it up. She was telling me how she hated housework. Well, I can't fault you for that. She goes, I hate chores. And she said, of all the housework, I hate laundry the most. And I said, well, you're not the only one. And she said, and of all the laundry stuff, I detest ironing. And I said, well, I'm with you. And she said, I hate it so much that I refuse to iron anything until every article of clothes that requires ironing has been worn and is put in this one separate hamper. And when that goes in there, then I'm going to take as much time as it takes to wash them, dry them, iron them, and get them back to the owners. I said, all right. And the purpose of this information is, she said, well, she said, I had been doing this for years, and it dawned on me, I had never tried to make the ironing more enjoyable by watching TV while I was ironing. I thought, hey, this might make it a little bit better and break up the boredom. So for the first time in my life, I set up the ironing board. I was pressing an article of clothes, watching TV, when all of a sudden, we break into your regularly scheduled program to tell you that the President of the United States has been shot in Dallas. They report that they're not sure, but they think it is a very serious wound. Oh, goodness. This is horrible. This is horrible. About 30 minutes later, we report that the President has died. Oh, I loved that President. He was such a great man. He was incredible. I admired him so much. And she said she was devastated. For whatever reason, and I don't know what the reason was, but for whatever reason, she didn't try to iron again in front of the TV for 5 years. So one day she takes out her ironing board. She starts ironing in front of the TV. We break into your regularly scheduled program to announce that Dr. Martin Luther King has been shot and killed in Memphis, Tennessee. Oh no! Oh, what an incredible, great man, and they shot him. They shot him. She goes, what is this world coming to? She goes, oh, that I'm just devastated. That was in April. In June, she tried once more to iron in front of the TV. We break into your regularly scheduled program to inform you that Robert Kennedy, the winner of the California primary and the winner of the nomination of President of the United States for the Democrat Party, has been shot. It is extremely serious. He is on his way to the hospital. We will keep you posted. He hung on for the rest of the night. The next day, he died. And she said, that's it. That's it. I will never, ever iron in front of the TV again. Every time I iron in front of the TV, there is a political assassination. Till her death, she never ironed in front of the TV again. She believed to the bottom of her soul that she was responsible for the political assassinations of those three men because she ironed in front of the TV. That's an illusory correlation, a perceived relationship where none existed. She didn't have anything to do with those men getting assassinated. But in her mind, she did. In her mind, there was a correlation. Okay? Confirmation bias, committing to a hypothesis to the extent that one rejects or ignores evidence that will contradict or invalidate the hypothesis. Guy doing research, and he's done 5 tests on this one thing. 4 of them confirm his hypothesis, but 1 of them is a complete opposite of the other tests. I must have done something wrong. I'll just kick this one out and ignore it. Can't do that. Now, another example doesn't have to do with hypothesis, but it's the same principle. I do a lecture on drug abuse. Within that lecture, I talk about marijuana. And contrary to what you have heard, marijuana is not safe. Now, as I was going through the studies, through the information, telling what can happen, I had a student sitting right over there on the front row, and first of all, she crossed her arms, and then after a few minutes, then it escalated to then she started turning and whispering to the person next to her. The whispering elevated to a audible mumble. She's lying. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I can't believe they allow her to do this. Finally, she stands up in the class. She faces the class and says, I'm not going to listen to this feces anymore, except she didn't use the word feces. I'm not going to listen to this feces anymore. This is just crap. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's giving us false information, and I'm not going to be indoctrinated. And she storms out of the room. Now, she was so committed to a hypothesis that she rejected information that contradicted it. Okay? She so committed to an opinion that she rejected. Law of parsimony, a simple explanation is preferred over a complex one. The KISS method, keep it simple, sweetie. Okay? Students are notorious for not doing this. Why should I write 1 sentence or paragraph when I can write 2 pages and really impress the instructor? I'll tell everything that I've ever heard about this subject so that they really know how much I've absorbed of these lectures. In about 2 chapters, you're going to get a written assignment where you have to explain what a quote means. Usually a sentence can do it, paragraph, fine. I had a student do 5 pages in explaining that quote. That is not the law of parsimony. If you can explain something in 1 sentence, do it. You don't have to rattle on. Last thing in this chapter, last thing in this unit, critical thinking. We, in every class, in every course, we are challenged to try and get you to think critically, to think outside the box, to think creatively, to assess claims and make judgments on the basis of well-supported evidence. It's not critical thinking if, well, I'm going to do this just because all my friends are doing it. I'm going to vote this way just because my family's voted this way for the last 200 years, and who am I to break a family tradition? Doesn't matter. I don't care who the candidate is. I don't care what they believe. I'm going to vote family tradition. That is not critical thinking. Critical thinking involves 4 steps. First of all, you ask questions. A minimum of 3 questions. What is the statement being made? Who is making it? And by what authority? What is the statement being made? Who is making it? By what authority? Many years ago, we had a director of health for the state of Arkansas. Now, before I go any further, I want you to know that there are 2 sets of statistics that are concerned with newborn babies or pregnancies, okay? The first one is called the pregnancy rate. That's how many girls get pregnant in a certain amount of time, say a year, okay? How many girls between 13 and 19, married and unmarried, become pregnant? The birth rate is how many of those girls that have gotten pregnant carry it to term and have a live baby. That's the birth rate. Included in the birth rate, they tell you how many babies of those girls that have gotten pregnant, how many are born alive, how many were stillborn, how many were miscarried, how many were aborted, and I'm not sure if there's anything else, but at least those categories. Many years ago, we had a Department of Health director, and she came before the state and she said, we have a crisis. We are in an incredible crisis in Arkansas. We are number 2 in the pregnancy rate. This cannot continue. It is not good for the girls' health to get pregnant when they're teenagers. It hurts the economy of Arkansas. It puts a burden on the population and especially on these girls. And she rattled on about all these things about why it was important to stop this pregnancy rate of the girls and to bring it down. Okay? We're number 2 in pregnancy rate. This is a crisis. What is the statement being made?
Pregnancy rate, you know.
Pregnancy rate is high and it's a crisis. This is an emergency. We have to do something quick. Who made the statement?
The health director.
All right, the Department of Health director. By what authority?
her own apparently.
Nope. I'll give you this one, state of Arkansas. She had the authority from the state of Arkansas because she was the director. So it looks to me like when you ask those three questions, we're good. We know what the question is clear. We know who's making it, and she does have the authority to make that statement. So, let's move on to step 2. Is the statement based on scientific observations or data? She was asked, where did you get this? And she said, we got it from the Center of Disease Control. Center of Disease Control has 2 functions. They are very, very intricate in trying to work and keep communicable diseases under control. They're also the National Clearinghouse for Health Statistics. Was that a reliable source? Yep. It's the National Clearinghouse for Health Data. Absolutely. So we're good now. We know what the statement is, that we're in crisis, it's an emergency, we're gonna have to do something as fast as we can to reduce this pregnancy rate, said by the Department of Health Director, by the state of Arkansas, and it is, the information came from a reputable source. What do the statistics reveal? When other people got the same report, they found out she was using the birth rate and not the pregnancy rate. The pregnancy rate for Arkansas was like number 26. The birth rate for Arkansas was number 2. Now remember, the birth rate is a measure of how many of those girls produced live babies. That's a good statistic. And so if she said that we were number 2, that's a statistic really that is not bad. Now, the pregnancy rate was not a crisis. The pregnancy rate was not an emergency. When confronted with this information, she didn't care. She kept on rattling off that we were number 2 in teenage pregnancies. Is there a plausible alternative explanation then? Yeah, she was using the wrong data. She was using the wrong data, and, I mean, you have a right to challenge it or reject it. Okay? Back in the 80s, the farmers got into a lot of trouble. They were going bankrupt, right and left. Right and left. The country was almost in a emergency mode. Willie Nelson was out there doing farm aid and doing concerts so he could give money to the farmers. Finally, the government moved in, saved the farmers, kept them from going bankrupt, then started having hearings on what caused this problem. What were the problems associated with farmers? During these hearings, there was one expert witness. Her name was Jessica Lang. Now, let's just say that the statement being made was the farmers were in deep trouble, that, besides weather and crop failure, that the equipment was expensive. Let's just say that the statement being made was clear, understandable, and it's worth listening to. All right, so we got Jessica Lang testifying before a Senate committee. Or congressional committee. What would be the next question you would ask?
That's where she got her information from.
Who?
The person, whoever was making the accusation.
All right.
statement.
So, first of all, who is making it? Jessica Lang. By what authority? She was an actress that played a farm wife in one movie. She was on set for 3 months playing a farm wife, and then goes up to Washington and testifies as an expert witness. Do you see why we have to ask these questions? See, I would have thought that if you want to really get a good idea, ask a farm wife, a real farm wife, not an actress. Critical thinking, one must have a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. It's the process of assessing claims, making judgments on the basis of well-supported evidence. You have to examine your assumptions and their assumptions. You have to look for hidden values. You have to evaluate evidence, and then you can assess and come to a conclusion. Now, with that being said, and I've got just enough time to do this, I'm going to give you a little scenario, okay? Let's say that I have won the $600 million lottery. I want it all at once, so that means I'll probably get about 400 million. And the government's probably gonna take 200 of that million, so I've got 200 million, and I think I can squeak by with that. I like you guys, and I am really in a celebratory mood. I'm gonna share the wealth. I'm gonna give each of you a choice. You can have $100,000 right this second, or if you wait for 30 days, I will take a penny and I'm gonna double it every day for 30 days. So we'll start out with a penny, second day will be 2 pennies, third day will be 4 pennies, next day will be 8 pennies, then 16 pennies for 30 days. $100,000 of the pennies.
I need a calculator.
Go ahead, that's fine, okay? $100,000 or a penny, or the pennies. The what? The pennies, okay?
Penny.
Pennies? The pennies? Okay. Pennies? 100,000. 100,000. Okay. Now, both of y'all have made a mistake. Everybody's answers has made a mistake except for him. Nobody wanted the facts. I want to show you something. Nobody wanted to take the time to find out the facts before you chose. Yeah, day 1 you start out with a penny. By day 10 you have $5.12. By day 20, $5,242. By day 30, $5,368,709. Now, those who chose the penny, you made a fast decision, but you made it without the facts. So what you did was you rolled the dice, and this time you rolled it correctly. The next time it might not work out so well if you don't get the facts. For the one who chose the 100,000, you grabbed onto the lollipop without getting the facts, and that would have cost you $5,200,000, $268,000. There's the fast choice, and then there's the factual choice. Both of them have consequences. Hopefully, you'll take the time to grab the factual choice and have good consequences. With that said, it's 1:30 and we just finished Unit 1. Okay? We finished Unit 1 and we'll start Unit 2 on Tuesday. Any questions?
So Unit 1 tests need to be completed by Tuesday or tomorrow?
I think I told you all October the 9th. Yeah, I gave you all extra time because we've been running behind. Actually, we caught up today with the other class.
All the quizzes are already closed out, aren't they?
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
I'm not gonna close